Well, now that we got this thing running and driving again, I think it's time to clean it. We're not going to go whole hog on it because it's just barely above freezing outside. Might not even be above freezing yet, but I think we'll just give her a little sponge bath and take off the first layer anyway. Polish her up maybe when it gets a little bit warmer. But for now, we'll get some of that crud off. I haven't started it today, so we'll see if it's going to start with no choke. I don't know. We will find out shortly. Make sure the key's on all the way. Sometimes it's not. Starter sticks every now and again. I don't like it when it does that either. Come on, starter. Might have to go through that. I'm not liking the sound of it. There we go. Yeah, probably got to take the starter apart and clean it up. But she runs anyway. As I say that, dies. Come on. Should probably just let it warm up and then drive it out. Alright, I've had her warmed up about a minute. Let's see if she's going to cooperate now. Oh, come on. You were almost there. Man, she don't like the cold with no choke. There we go. He's happy now. I think we'll let her sit in the sun a bit, warm up, and see if we can clean her up. Alright, I gave her a little bit of a bath. It wasn't a proper wash, but it was 34 degrees outside, so I didn't want to spend too much time on it. And I got most of the grime off. Now I gotta head to the interior here and see what I can do with this. It's kind of, I'm pretty sure that's sun fade. I'm not going to get that off, a lot of it, but I do have some vinyl cleaner, and we'll see if we can get at least some of these stains off of here and clean that up. Try to get it halfway decent. We'll do that to the front and the back seats, and then I think in the back window here you can see the mice were crawling up through the trunk, and they left quite a mess on this back panel. So rather than try to clean that, I think I'm just going to take it out and recover it because it's not original anyway, so I'll throw something else in there. But for now, we are going to take the tires off because I got new tires. Fancy, brand new white walls. Alright, I got it all jacked up in the air and I'm taking the wheels off here. And I figured I'd just let you know, sometimes when you're working on these old cars, they sometimes use left-hand threads on the lug nuts. Like this one, it's got left-hand threads on the left side of the car, the driver's side, and then right-hand threads on the right-hand side. So if you're working on one and the lug nuts don't want to come off, they might be backwards, so don't break your studs. I don't know if you can see that, but on the end of the stud here, mine are all stamped with L on this side of the car, and they're stamped with an R on the other side. So if you're having trouble, you can look for that. But let's go ahead and get these tires down and see if we can get some new ones put on. Alright, I went ahead and I got new tires put on the rims, and obviously got them back on the car here. And I went ahead and threw on the hubcaps too, dusted them off a little bit. They're not super clean, but neither is the rest of the car. I figure when it warms up a little bit, we'll get the hose out and we'll clean everything off. Clean off this blue on the new white walls and polish up all the chrome and everything. But until then, there's still a little bit more work to do. I think the next thing I'm going to tackle is this scary mess of wiring down here. I used to have a radio sitting in it right here, and then that got taken out and put in my brother's Buick. So I think what I'm going to do is put that one back in. Already went ahead and grabbed it. It's an old aftermarket deal. Nothing too fancy. I suppose maybe it was kind of fancy then, but we're going to see if we can just bolt that back in there and make it work. And then maybe at some point in the future get something a little better, but gotta have some tunes when you're going down the road, so we'll get that in and see if we can make it work. Well, I'm not 100% sure how this car didn't catch fire when I put a battery in it, but it didn't. I used a lot of the twist and tape method on the wiring in this car, and they forgot the tape, so it's just bare wires twisted together, a lot of it. So I had to go through and kind of half-ass fix some of that anyway, so it won't burn down. And there are still some wires unplugged up here on the dash underneath, and 3 of the light bulbs I see, I've found 3 so far, are unplugged, so it's probably, I have no dash lights I would imagine, but radio's in, it does work. I just got to get it mounted up and fix those lights, and we'll see what we get with it. Well, it took the better part of the night and a little light reading in the wiring, or in the manual, for some wiring diagrams there, but I think we got the electronics sorted out on this thing, all the wiring. And I got the radio in, and that works. I'll have to figure out what all the buttons do, but turn the key on, radio should come on. Boom, there it is. I'll have to mess with that. Quit. Yeah, I'll quit. Sure, why not? I don't want demo. There we go. Sounds pretty good too. We'll just turn that down for copyright reasons. But I got my oil light back. Don't have my amp light, but I didn't figure I would because I cut the generator out of it. And I've got a alternator now, so that's kind of not being used. My brother used to have some subs and an amp in the trunk, and I'm not going to use that. So these are his switches for that. They're just out of the way, unplugged. And I did have a problem with the dash lights not coming on, and that was because the headlight switch, the dimmer part of it didn't work. But I got them working now. We got lights on the dash. I got turn signals. I got a high and low beam light. So everything works. What I ended up having to do with the switch is I actually made a jumper wire, and they got so many pins on there, I was able to just jump and bypass the dimmer part of the switch. So it works when the headlights come on. I can't dimmer up or down, but as long as I've got lights and I can see what I'm doing, it doesn't really matter. So now that that's done, and I've got lights and I've got tunes, I suppose I should probably try to clean the yellow off these seats. We're going to try something experimental. We'll see if it works. And then I've got the pinion seal to fix. I don't have one of those yet, but maybe I'll just fill it with fluid and make sure it's full for now anyway. Well, alright, now that we've got the wiring kind of squared away, I'm going to tackle these seats. And it's got some stains, but what I'm trying to get off is this yellowing here. And I've tried several different things, and they get progressively more aggressive. I've tried soap and water, that didn't touch it. Tried an actual vinyl cleaner, and that took out some of the stains, but it didn't really take care of any of the yellowing, of course. So the next step was get a brush and try to scrub it, and that didn't do it. And then I tried, what did I try? Magic erasers, I tried those. I tried some OxyClean, and nothing seems to touch it. So what I'm going to do is a process called Retrobriting. I'm going to try that. They use it on old computers and video game consoles and whatnot. And what they do is they take basically hydrogen peroxide and put it on and then let it sit in the sun. I just wiped my finger, some of it on there, gloved finger of course, and made this little blotch of it here just to see if it would work at all. And it lined it up some. You can really see the edge here where it did it. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'm going to clean up these seats with the vinyl cleaner, clean them up real nice, and then I'm probably going to spread. Yeah, I might do the whole front seat. I don't know. It seemed to work okay. I might have to do it a couple times, but we'll do the whole seat and we'll set it in the sun, and then I'll compare the front seat to the back seat. And you can really see, I haven't done anything with the back seat, but you can really see this thing was sitting right here the whole time, and you can see the difference there. So hopefully this Retrobrite idea will work, and it doesn't seem to have destroyed the seat right there where I put it. So we're going to give it a try and see if I can make that yellowing go away. Here's a little better shot. You can see it on the door. There was a kick panel was slightly back when the door was shut, and you can really see the difference there. So we're going to give it a try and see if we can lighten it up a little bit at least. Alright, well, I went ahead and I did my retrobriting thing on the bottom of this seat. I took some of this developer, hair care, whatever stuff, 12% hydrogen peroxide gel anyway. I took that and I brushed it on to the seat and I let it sit in the sun for a while. And it has taken out some of the yellowing. It's obviously not perfect. You can see where something had been sitting for years. But it took some of the yellowing out, and I think it's more apparent if you look at this seat and then look at the back, the bottom of the back seat where I did nothing, and you can really see how yellow that was. And the front seat was about the same. So it did take it up some. It's not obviously looking like it was brand new, but it did something. I think it wasn't completely effective because the way the sunlight hits it at this time of year, it's early morning, and you can see the shadows coming, and as the sun comes across the sky, it's still pretty low this time of year, so the entire dash just shades this whole seat. So I wasn't getting a whole lot of sunlight, and it dries up pretty fast. Usually when they do this with computer parts and stuff, they put it in like a plastic bag and set it in direct sunlight to keep it moist and getting sunlight, but couldn't really put this in a plastic bag, so it would dry up after a while, and I'd come out and just kind of wet it down every now and again. So I might try this again later in the year. I might even take the seat out, and so it gets full sunlight, put saran wrap on it or something and give it another try. I think for now though I'm just gonna leave it alone and call it good, and I think later in the year I might try it and take the seats out, because yeah, you can see how yellow it used to be. So it sort of worked. We're making progress anyway. Well, after I got the seats sort of cleaned up there, I figured I'd take it out for its maiden voyage and see what falls off, and it went well. Went up and got some oil, came back home, and as I was pulling in to the garage here, I noticed that I was dumping coolant out of here. You know, big steam engine looking thing coming out of it, and it was like, oh crap, it's overheating. So I let it cool down, went ahead and started changing the oil, and decided to take the radiator cap off to see, you know, how much coolant was gone, see what was going on. And I pulled the cap off, and a big ball of hair came out of it. I don't know where it is. There's a couple of pieces I pulled out of the radiator, but I can probably pull another one if I can find it here. But I think what happened is, while this radiator was sitting around, oh yeah, what's that? I don't know, chunk of crap. Anyway, while this radiator was sitting around, yeah, see, there's some more here. I think a mouse decided to make a home. There it is. Oh, that's beautiful. In this upper part. And then, I don't know if he died in there, and that's his hair, or he found hair and put it in there, or what he did, but that would explain why she didn't want to cool so good. It was fine, you know, it's about 40 degrees today, but yeah, you can, I don't know, maybe kind of see all the crud in there. So I'm going to have to pull this radiator out, tip it upside down, and see if I can't flush that crap out of there. That's a good thing I was just going on a short little trip before I noticed it. Kind of cruddy in there, but I think the thermostat's working. I don't see any hair and whatever, so I'm pretty sure it was the radiator. I don't think much circulated through the system, because how could it if it wasn't going through? So hopefully I can get that all out of there, and maybe she'll stay a little cooler. Alright, well, as you can see, I got the radiator out of it here, and I went ahead and I flushed it. Got all the hair out of it, and the mouse poop and all the crap that was in it. I think there might still be some bones in there or something, because when I shake it, I can hear it rattle, but I can't shake it out, so I guess the mouse bones will have to stay. But it seems like water's flowing through it good, so I'm going to call that good for now, and we'll see how it does. I also went ahead and I pulled the thermostat out just to see, make sure there was no hair that had come through the engine, because that's probably where it would get stuck. And I didn't see anything, seemed clean, so I'm probably going to run up to the parts store tomorrow and grab another thermostat. This one looks fine, but I think I'm going to go from the 195 that this is, maybe to a 180 or something, just because I don't really trust that so much. So we're just going to put a lower thermostat in, hopefully open this up a little sooner, and you know, give me a little warning maybe before it dumps a bunch of coolant. So we're going to try to keep her cool, and then we'll get her back together and we'll try her again. Well, I've got the radiator back in and all hooked up and full of coolant, and went ahead and I fired up the car, and the oil light was on, and it stayed on, which I didn't think much of at first because it did that earlier. And what I ended up doing was coming over here and wiggling the wire for the sender, and the light went out and stayed out. And I thought, oh, it was just a bad connection. Well, this time I did that, wiggled the wire and tried to get it to go out, and it didn't. I'm like, what the heck? So I revved up the engine a little bit, and the light went out. So that's telling me I probably have low oil pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up a mechanical gauge, take that sender out, put a mechanical gauge in there, fire it up, and it's probably going to say I have low oil pressure. So my next step is on the front of this oil pump, or yeah, this oil pump on the bottom. I don't think we can see it, but there's a little plug. I'll have to get at it from underneath. And behind that plug is a spring and the pressure relief valve. I'll have to pull that out and see if it's all gunked up. It probably is, given this is a 1968 motor and it's probably never been cleaned, so I may have to take that motor mount out of the way to get to it. We'll see, but we'll clean that up and hopefully I'll get oil pressure again. Well, I've got some kind of oil pressure. I fired it up and it went up to about 30. A little bit later it backed down to about 10. 9 or 10. I revved it back up and it came up to 20. And then it kind of settled back to about 10. And then now it's slowly climbing as we're sitting here. So I'm wondering if that valve isn't just gummed up. And I guess we'll see what it does once we get it up to temperature and see if it unsticks that valve a little bit or what. Because you would think as the oil gets hot, the oil pressure would go down, not up. So we'll let it run and we'll see where it goes. Probably do just need to clean that valve, but we'll see if maybe we can get a consistent oil pressure out of this thing. Okay, I'm a little bit happier with that. I've just been letting it sit here and idle, and it seems to have gone up quite a bit. I wonder if when I put this engine in, I used 5W30 because it was all I had, and I figured I'd just change it real quick to a heavier oil before I did any real driving. And after the radiator thing, I decided to change the oil, put heavier stuff in, and I wonder if when I fired up the car, it pushed that pressure relief valve farther than it had gone with that thicker oil, farther than it had gone in a long time, and it just stuck itself there. And that's why my oil light would stay on. And so I shut it off, and while I was sitting there putting the gauge on, I wonder if the spring loosened it back up, pushed it back, and now that I'm getting some heat into it, it's working itself loose. Seems to be anyway. It goes up when I rev it, and it doesn't drop down too far, so I feel better about that now. And I don't see any leaks in the radiator. That seems to be working. I can feel, the top of the radiator is hotter than the bottom, obviously, but I think there's some coolant flowing through it. I hope there is anyway. My gauge is not overheating anyway. No, that don't make any sense because the oil light's not plugged in. I wonder if it's grounded on something. But yeah, I'm not overheating. That looks good. I'll have to figure out this light. It's screwing with my brain, man. Maybe there's a bad wire somewhere and it's grounding, and my oil pressure was really fine the whole time. Who knows? Yeah, there we go. See if the light's on now. It may have just grounded on something. No, it's still off. I have no idea what's going on. But at least I have oil pressure. Alright, I had my wires crossed in my brain, so to speak. The oil light should be off when that's unplugged. I was thinking it was the other way around for some reason, because I unplugged it and I went in the car and I turned the key on, the light was still on. But I think that wire was just touching something metal down there, so that kind of threw me off. But it needs to ground through the switch to come on, so that's sorted out. I took it for a little drive. Didn't notice anything funny with the oil light, so I think that's okay. I'm going to keep an eye on it. And it didn't overheat. I think I got that sorted out too. I went for maybe a little bit longer drive, and temperature stayed fine, didn't blow out any coolant. It was all good, so I think this thing's just about ready to go. I did top off the diff fluid in the back, and of course that's still leaking, so I do need a pinion seal for sure. But other than that, I think she's ready to go.